Hey, it's me, Vicki Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, I've got a story for you today, a crime story, a true story, that is a cautionary tale. Quite often, we talk on this channel about forgiveness. Many victims or victims' families forgive their perpetrators. And I think this is a good thing. You know, if you believe in Christianity, if you believe in just general sort of good karma for you, not about the perpetrator, but sometimes forgiveness can be a release for the victim or the victim's family, because instead of carrying around all that hate with them, you know, there's definitely a case for forgiveness. As I say, not for the perpetrator, but for yourself. If you're a victim or a victim's family, there's a case for forgiveness for your own freedom, isn't there? For your own peace of mind. But in this case, if you like, and it is a case, it's a very sad cautionary tale. How far should that forgiveness go? You know, you can forgive someone in your heart and move on, forgive them, put them into a little black bag and throw it behind you. Let God deal with them. Let the prison service deal with them. Let their karma, if you like, or their punishment be whatever punishment they get in this world and the punishment that they get in the next world. That's a choice that a person can make. But how far should you go with this forgiveness? You know, would you go as far as having that person who had actually unalived your loved ones in your home, give them a job, you know, make sure they're okay? Would you do that? Would you go as far as that? Would your forgiveness go as far as that? Should it go as far as that? And I think after you've watched this video, you would come to the conclusion, no, maybe that is a step too far. Because what we're going to talk about in this video, please don't forget to subscribe to see similar videos. We're going to talk about this lady. This is Martha McKay, and she forgave this twonk, Travis Lewis, for killing members of her family. But not only she forgave him, she gave him a job. She accepted him into her home. And you know what happened? He killed her too. Let's chat. So you're already probably thinking, WTF, you know, WTAF. This poor woman who, as I say, had a Christian heart. Look, there's always a dog. You know what I say? There's always a dog. Here's Martha with her dog. She lived in a beautiful house on Horseshoe Lake in Arkansas, which we've been to Arkansas for a couple of cases, because that's the place, of course, that I always pronounce wrong. I always pronounce it as Arkansas. And this beautiful house that she lived in was on the banks of the Horseshoe River. Let's have a look at the Horseshoe River. Very aptly named. We go have a look. There we can see it's very aptly named because it is in the shape of a horseshoe. Sorry, Horseshoe Lake, not Horseshoe River. And it's here. It's far as the United States is concerned, this is where it is. Arkansas, little distance from Washington. You know, my geography of the United States is not the best, but it's getting better. It's getting better. At least I'm pronouncing it right now. Arkansas. This is where it happened. And so, yes, she owned this beautiful house. Sorry, I'm just going to go in again because I want to show you the shape. Horseshoe Lake. Okay. That is where this woman lived. Now, to understand this story and why she gave him, why she forgave him, and not only forgave him, this is not just a story of forgiveness. This is really a cautionary tale. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and this lady, Martha, she not only forgave this perpetrator, Travis Lewis, who killed members of her family, including her mother. She not only forgave him, but she gave him a job. She had him in her home. And it completely backfired on her. So let's have a look at it. I'm just going to leave a picture of Martha up there and just read you the background to this story. So she was kind to him. Now, it was in 1996 that Travis Lewis murdered her mother and her cousin. And Martha, she forgave him. So apparently she was big-hearted, she was gregarious, and she was always up for an adventure. She had loads of friends, and there was something about her that people loved, her sister said. So, to all accounts and purposes, she left really good impressions on people. She had that gift of, she was kind, and people knew it, people felt it. So, on March the 25th, 2020, at that beautiful house that she owned, that she'd converted into a luxury bed and breakfast, she was killed. It's called Snowden House, that property. And the person who killed her was the same person, Travis Lewis, that had killed her mother and her cousin all those years before. The person that she had forgiven, taken into her home. It sort of beggars belief, really, doesn't it? And he rewarded her. He rewarded that forgiveness by killing her. And Martha was 63 when she was murdered. She was found stabbed and bludgeoned to death at the top of the stairs. And then Travis, he escaped from the scene, and he was seen running away from the scene, and he jumped into the river, and he did not come out. The lake, I should say, Horseshoe Lake. He jumped into Horseshoe Lake, and his body was recovered later. Now, Travis was only 17 when he was convicted in 1996 for the murders of her mother and cousin. So he was young. He was only 17 years old. But I think what happened later, it just shows you, he may have only been young, but he went on to kill again, and not only to kill anyone, but to kill the person, his benefactor, the person who'd given him a second chance, who'd helped him, who'd forgiven him. Now, as always, I'm sure you'll leave me a note in comments. Let me know what you think about that. Do you think she was right to forgive him? I mean, obviously, in the benefit of hindsight, now we know that what happened later, we would say, no, she wasn't right to forgive him. But at the time, before she knew he was going to go on and kill her, do you think she was right to forgive a 17-year-old boy? you know. And if she was right to forgive him, as I say, forgiveness is one thing. I think to forgive someone probably is a good thing, not only for them, but for you, mainly for you, really, to release yourself from all that hate, from all that anger. And, you know, that's probably a good thing for you, in my opinion. But to then go on and have that person in your home, I don't know that I could have done that. I've got to be honest. You know, even regardless of what happened later, even if I didn't know that, be difficult to have them in your home, wouldn't it? I mean, but she's not the only one. I've read of these things happening before. So he'd been convicted at 17 for 2 murders. Her mother, Sally Snowden McKay, who was 75 at the time, and her cousin, Joseph Lee Baker, 52, who was a prominent Memphis blues guitarist. And this twonk had killed both of them. So he pled guilty to the murders, but he never confessed, apparently. He still maintained that somebody else killed them. So she befriended him. After he went to prison, he was sentenced to 28 and a half years after pleading guilty. He pled guilty, he was sentenced to 28 and a half years. And she started going to visit him. And she was told by her friends it wasn't a good idea. She was asked not to go, but she just went. That was the sort of person. You know, even that was the sort of person she was. She was warned by her family, by her friends. They wrote to each other in prison while he was in prison. Martha was a Buddhist, a long-term Buddhist. She supported his early release on parole. And every time he came up for parole, of course, the family are always contacted, aren't they? And she approved his parole every time, and in the end he was released early on parole because she felt that he was so young at the time, you know, at 17, that, and she believed him that somebody else was responsible for these murders. She believed what he was saying. So finally in 2018 he was released on parole. Out he came into the, you know, into the general population. I mean, the thing is, as well, you know, and I don't want to be horrible to Martha, but what you've got to remember is, in the end, she paid the ultimate sacrifice for her trust and her forgiveness. But it could have been anyone. You know, this man was a convicted killer. He might have only been 17, and maybe she did believe what he said, that it was somebody else who actually did it. But really, from the minute that Travis, in my opinion, from the minute that Travis came out of prison, everyone in that area was at risk. Everyone. Not just Martha. I think this man, you know, well, and it was proven right in the end. And I know it's benefit of hindsight. She did, you know, what she thought was right. She did what she thought was spiritually right in supporting his early release. And, you know, I hope she's, you know, in wherever she's gone now and where she is now, I hope that will be something. At the end of the day, she is a nice person. Whether you think she was right or wrong in what she did, I think you can't argue that she's a good person. And she will get her karma for being a good person, if you see what I mean, I believe, in the next life, even though it backfired on her and he didn't deserve her forgiveness and her trust. But the fact remains that she is a good person. Yeah. So she also, just before his death, she fired him. At her death, she fired him because money had gone missing. She'd sold a chandelier, apparently for $10,000 in cash, and that was hidden around the house somewhere. But I think he had that money disappeared, and so she fired him, because it could have only been him, I presume, that would have taken the money. She obviously didn't take it herself. So that's probably the motive for, I mean, because he took himself up. Well, he didn't take himself off to another world. He drowned in the lake. We'll never get, to know exactly what happened that day, because both the people that were there that day are deceased. But I just think it's so sad that somebody, somebody who puts so much trust in someone forgives someone. So anyway, the moral to this story for me is, yes, forgive for you, not for them. Forgive for you, because only God can judge ultimately. And it's a good thing to forgive in your heart, but it's not a good thing, in my opinion, to give a job to any ex-murderer. I mean, this man, it was it's two people supposedly that he killed. We can presume, well, he pled guilty, but he still insisted that it was somebody else who actually did the killing. But now he's shown he's perfectly capable of murdering someone. And the thing is, she trusted him. She gave him a job in that lovely house. And he didn't deserve that, did he? I mean, he should have been like thanking God for what she gave him. He came out of prison. She gave him a job. He had everything handed to him on a plate, but he's just a bad twonk. Some people are just bad. Doesn't matter what upbringing they had. It doesn't matter what substances they get involved with. It's not always about that. They would be bad whatever. They could be born with a silver spoon with the best childhood ever, and they'll still be bad, because some people are bad. And I'm coming to believe that more and more. There's evil in this world. And if you believe in good, you have to believe in evil as well. I do believe that. And I've seen it so many times. Some people, either they're possessed or they're just born evil. And this man is one of them. Because this man, no matter what she did for him, I mean, imagine you come out of prison, you're given a job just like that, just up the road. He lives somewhere around about in that beautiful house. You could really sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? You could spend so much time there, enjoy that scenery, how beautiful it is. He had that fantastic opportunity, but he had to steal money, because he was probably, did he need it for drugs? Was he on drugs? Why did he steal that money and just ruin everything? But he did. So she was found that late Wednesday morning at her home, and the suspect in the killing was Travis Sante Lewis. And, he'd been paroled in 2018, as I say. So the police at the time said that deputies responded to an alarm at the historical Snowdon house in Horseshoe Lake, and two deputies that arrived found an open back door, and upon clearing the house located a possible suspect who jumped from an upstairs window and ran to a vehicle. The vehicle he drove across the yard and got stuck in the yard. He then jumped from the car, ran and jumped into the lake. He was observed going under the water, and he never came back up. It says deputies responded to an alarm. So it makes you wonder, did she have a personal alarm or like panic alarms in the house, etc.? So that's why the police arrived there. So, they then found her deceased in the house. They found, and the body was identified as Martha. And then rescue teams from the Sheriff's Department and Arkansas Game and Fish used sonar equipment to locate and recover the body of Lewis, who had drowned. So what a sad story, isn't it? It's such a sad story because, this woman, she was a nice woman. She forgave him according to her religion. She was a Buddhist, apparently. So, Buddhism does teach forgiveness, and I'm all for forgiveness, believe me. I am all for forgiveness. But I think I would stop short of having this man. I would have stopped short of having him in my house. It's one thing to forgive him. It's another thing to actually have him around, etc. But, that's what Martha did. And Martha did, at the end of the day, Martha did what she thought was right. She lived her life according to her own beliefs, her own, and so what else can you do but that? But unfortunately, it all backfired on her. Hope the dog's all right. There's always a dog, isn't there? And you always hope the dog is all right. Because you always think that somebody that would kill somebody who was so kind to them wouldn't stop short at hurting a dog, would they? So he's a complete twonk, this guy. I mean, he's going to double hell, of course. Only God can forgive him, or, I just feel like he's going to double hell. God, you could, what? We all make mistakes. He was 17 when the first thing happened. There's all sorts of excuses you can give a 17-year-old for doing bad things. We know that 17-year-olds are not, 100% sort of defined, if you like, or finished off, or as Judge Judy says, they're not cooked yet. And, teenagers do get involved in bad things. But this man, he is more than that, isn't he? Because he's come out, he's been forgiven for he's paid his price, his debt to society, and he's come out of prison and he's done it all again. It's even worse now because he's not 17 now. He's not 17 anymore. This woman has helped him. He should be on his knees begging this woman for forgiveness for what he did to her previous family members. Should be treating her like a queen for how she's helped him. And instead, what he's done, he robbed her. He murdered her. And then he took his own life. So there's no second justice for him. He probably couldn't face going back into prison, I expect. Or maybe he just drowned by accident. Maybe he was trying to swim. He went into the lake to escape the police, and maybe he wasn't a strong swimmer and he made a mistake. We don't know for certain that he intended to take his own life. So to me, it's a cautionary tale. Yes, forgive, but, be careful, because you're forgiving somebody, even, the sort of things that teenagers normally get involved in, when they're not quite cooked yet. As I say, they stealing, maybe drug use, bit petty theft, etc. Murder is another thing, isn't it? Even as a teenager, even though as a teenager, you're not thinking straight most of the time, it's still, I think, quite unusual, isn't it, for a teenager to actually kill somebody. Most teenagers, much as they might, as I say, get involved in petty crime, etc., they won't get involved in serious crime like murder. That's quite a big thing, isn't it? So a very big thing, double murder as well. So I just wanted to tell you about this lady. I'm going to put a candle up for her, for Martha, because I think Martha, she did the right thing as far as her religion was concerned, as far as she felt she had to for a spiritual reason. And I hope, she's getting a reward for that in heaven, for being such a nice person. You have to hope that as well. And the thing is, if you believe that, twonks like him end up spinning in hell, which I do believe that nice people like Martha will, get rewarded in the next world for their, their niceness, for their kindness. But as they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I'm not saying that Martha's gone to hell, but can you imagine how scared she must have been that day when she just realised she tried her very best to help this man, giving him a job, giving him a second chance, even though it was her own flesh and blood that he'd murdered all those years ago. She really wanted to give him a second chance. And can you imagine when she realised, well, first of all, when she realised he stole that money from her that she'd hidden in the house from selling the chandelier, and that's why she fired him. And then when he turned back up, he's probably turned up there unannounced with vengeance on his mind, or maybe trying to get some more money. Maybe he was still on drugs. I say still on drugs. I don't know that he was ever on drugs, but maybe that's what he needed it for. Maybe he was simply angry that she'd found him out. Because quite often twonks, they do that, their response. In my experience of watching true crime, etc., videos and seeing interviews, with these twonks, they react in two different ways when they're caught out. They either burst into tears. That's something that they do, isn't it? Or they get angry. Now, and I mean really angry. I mean, it's hard, isn't it, sometimes when you're interviewing someone or you're watching someone being interviewed about a crime, and if they really, really honestly didn't do it, they might get angry. What do you mean? Why are you saying I've done that? That's a different thing. I'm talking about when they get presented with irrefutable evidence. So they might be sat there like all being cooperative with the inquiries and what have you, and then they get challenged with a proper bit of evidence. They quite often get angry, don't they? They react. They either burst into tears. I've seen, it's just like, or it's anger. Because they cannot accept the irrefutable proof of what they've done and what a twonk they are. So, and I think that's true in general life. Obviously these are extremes. We talk about murders and things, but in general life, like if a guy gets caught out cheating, he normally, first of all, it's like all, they'll be like angry. Or no, first of all, it would be like, oh, no, I would have never do that, blah, 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 blah. Then they get presented with evidence that they really have done it. And I'm talking about men and women. I shouldn't just say guys, because women cheat as well. You get this either burst into tears, I'm so sorry, blah, 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 or the anger that they've been found out, isn't it? Because they can't accept responsibility, that it's their fault. I think a lot of these sort of twonky people, they can't accept respect. They hold my hands up. I did it. I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. I think I just lost the plot or whatever. They can't just take responsibility, can they, for their own actions? And I think that's something that's important in life, because we all do wrong things. I mean, not necessarily as wrong as like this twonk's done. I'm not saying that. But, there's not many of us that have got through life, especially if you've got to my advanced age. There's loads of things I've done that I'm not proud of. I'm a human being. I've done things, selfish things. I've, as I say, nothing like what he did. But I have done things because I am a human being. But I hold my hands up to the things I've done. If anybody, I say, yeah, I did that and I shouldn't have done it. You're right. Sometimes there is a reason why you do things, or there are extenuating circumstances. There are times when we're more vulnerable than others to maybe be persuaded to do something that we probably shouldn't do. But what's the word? I saw somebody said something really good the other day on something that I was watching, that these are not, these might be reasons for why we do bad things, but they're not excuses. Do you know what I mean? You can't be excused for doing a bad thing, but you may have a reason why you did it. And that's, I don't know, I suppose a little bit of an extenuating circumstance. But this particular guy, he was given two chances. You know, two chances. He had his chance when he was 17 and he chose to murder two people. And even if there was somebody else involved in that crime, he was part of it. And he admitted, he confessed to murder to get shorter sentence, of course. He pled guilty and it worked for him because he got released on parole early and he got another chance at life that this woman gave him. Martha gave him another chance at life. So do you know what? He was lucky. He had two chances at life and he ruined both of them for himself. So he's a bad person, just generally a bad person. So what he did at 17, really, that was the real him, wasn't it? Was the real him. Wasn't just a daft kid getting involved with the wrong people and, you know, getting caught up in a situation that he didn't want to. That was the real him. You know, when he got the opportunity to do it, you know, to have a second life, he did it all again. Even worse. Even worse. Betrayed somebody who'd been good to him. I feel sorry for his family as well. I don't know what his mum and dad family think about it all. They were probably glad when he came out of prison. You know, they probably respected this woman for helping their loved one. And then he turned around and did that. So, yeah, little cautionary tale. Although I do think, 100%, I believe that forgiveness is important for many things. Every day I try and forgive people who have done bad things to me, you know, like in my head, like in a prayer. But that doesn't mean I'm going to invite them back into my life to do those bad things to me again. You know, that's just, you know, that somebody wrongs you, like a friend or a partner or whatever. And I think it's important to forgive them. I forgive everybody for anything they've ever done wrong about to me. But that doesn't mean I'm letting them back in my life to give them a chance to do it again. Not doing that. So I don't think lepers change their spots. You know, friends that have let you down, bullied you, you know, maybe sort of bad-mouthed you to other people and they're supposed to be your friend. You know, this is something that's happened to me often. And I forgive them. I forgive them because I know really for them to do that, they must be quite unhappy people. But I won't have them back in my life as a friend ever again. No. So that's where I think Martha maybe, you know, yeah, to help him on his way, maybe help him get a job, those kind of things. But to invite him actually into her home, bless her. I understand why she did it, and I think it says a lot about her that she did it, that she's a very forgiving, a very spiritual person. But unfortunately, it backfired on her, so I wouldn't recommend that. Okay, so just I read about this story. I think this is something I'd like to share with my chatters because there's a moral to this story, which is yes, forgive. Don't, you know, but you still got to be cautious. You know, having an open spirit, if you like, a forgiving spirit, doesn't mean to say you can't be cautious still, because you've always got to be just a little bit careful, haven't you? Maybe that's the wrong, maybe some of you will disagree with that. Maybe people of you that are out there that are also like Christians or Buddhists or whatever believe in forgiveness. Maybe you think you should just forgive without qualifications. But personally, because you have to me, you have to protect yourself as well. And, you know, when I quite often say in videos, you are the most important person, I really mean that. And that's not narcissism or egoism. Thing is, probably you may well be holding a load of other people together. So you're the most important person, because if you go under for whatever reason, if you, I don't know, get have a nervous breakdown or get ill, or something happens to you, like in this case of Martha, what happens to all the other people that you're propping up? So caring about yourself is not selfish. It's how you have to be able to care about other people, and animals. And even if you've got animals that you look after, what would they do without you? What would your family do without you? What would your friends do without you? You're important to people, as well as yourself, so you can look on it that way. It's not selfish to care about yourself. Caring about yourself, putting yourself first, sometimes you have to recharge. You have to get up every morning and face the world. And if you don't, then how many people are you helping to face the world? What's going to happen to them? So I think that's the way to look at it. But anyway, poor Martha, she paid the price. But she, at the end of the day, spiritually, and as far as her eternal soul is concerned, she's got nothing to worry about. Travis, however, he's got something to worry about. Okay, thank you for watching. I think I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave me a like, and don't forget to subscribe for other similar videos. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye.